adapt to the style, most like of the penciler.
Yeah, I mean, if the penciler has a really clean style, it depends on the penciler. Some pencilers are very, very tight, and others are very loose. And the loose ones are the ones where you can kind of infuse a little more of your own style. Experiment with some caution, depending on the penciler you're working with or the editors you're working with, because sometimes they want to have their say in it. So do listen to them, because they are the ones responsible for you even having the job. Personally, I haven't had too much problem with that. I just kind of do my own thing, you know, whatever. And I always say, do the best work that you can in the amount of time you have. I think that's important, because comic books by nature is a very time-sensitive industry. Things have to go out on time. They have to go out every month. So you know, you want to train yourself to be as productive as you can. You know, if you're going to take 1 week to do one page, every page, you're not going to survive in the business.
Absolutely not.
It's not listed as part of the job description, but really you have to be fast and productive in this business to stay alive.
How long do you guys usually take for like the average page? You know,
it varies, Austin.
Yeah, it depends on the artist and how much detail is involved with the pencils, whether they're loose or whether they're tight. Ideally, like with anything else, you know, comics is a job, and as a job, you have deadlines that you have to make. Now, you don't want to try to take away any quality that you're putting down on your lines, but like you're getting used to different artists. The first issue is kind of like the whole warming up period. You know, you're getting used to their art style. They're getting used to the way that you're inking their pencils, but you want to make the deadline too. And then from there, you can kind of communicate with each other what worked, what didn't work, and the time frame, and kind of go from there. But to get back to your question, usually you can do between 1 and 2 pages if you really don't want to make your deadline. If you can get in the process and get used to artists after a while, then you can you get used to what they're doing and what they're not doing, and you can always speed up. You know what I mean? Repetition always makes it faster.
In my case, I'm pretty slow. I draw slowly, I ink slowly. And working with Doug Mankey, who's got an extremely tight and detailed work, takes a long time. So at best, I make 1 page a day. And but on average, I'd say I would need like 2 days or 1 day and a half to make a page. So that implies working on weekends to catch up for what I couldn't do, like, and so the book comes out like on time. So it's time consuming, and basically you can forget about your life once you start inking. Just like all drawing.
I think the industry standard is about a page a day, and it really depends on the page itself and the penciler, and how much you actually have to do the finishing yourself. The fastest I've ever inked 1 page was on JLA, because it was an easy page admittedly. It was 2 hours. It was like the last page of the Trial by Fire, I think, or second to last page, I don't remember. So I like those pages because you get paid the same. But the longest I spent on a page is probably really early in my career when I first started on Doug Mankey, and I started on a book called Major Bummer. Anyone remembers that? Oh, yeah. It didn't sell. It was horrible. Yeah. He's right. That's why it got canceled. I think I spent like 21 hours on 1 page because I was just slow and new, and I didn't.
Yes, you should try to squeeze in.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
everybody gets.
We have a new. Go ahead, Ralph.
I'm sorry, I'm Ralph Cabrera. Sorry for being late. I used to work at Marvel full time back in the 80s and 90s. And did Spider-Man, Conan, just about everything. You keep bouncing around from book to book. But yeah, I'm not sure what the question was, but as far as I'm guessing it's about speed and time.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I would have to say the fastest I ever went was with Ron Lim. He was very easy to work with, and I think I did the whole book in about 10 days, which wasn't bad. Wow. And as far as the longest, I worked with an Italian for a while, Claudio Castellini, on Conan, and that was more of a labor of love, so I took my time on it. And I think I was averaging about a page every 2.5 days. It was very time consuming. If you ever get a chance to see it, I think you'll know why.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question for you guys here. What's the record? What's your record as far as how many pages you've done in a day?
Personally, either 4 or 5. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, about 4.
I think I did 5 once, and once in 13 years. But I did ink, pencil and ink 16 pages in 1 week last fall for Ghostbusters. So that was my super record right there.
Yeah.
You're just one, right?
In one day, I guess that'd be 2, and it was February 22nd, 1992. No,
Proud
yeah,
day.
I think I did 2 pages once, but that's a very easy page, really easy stuff. So that did it. I went to bed very happy that day, and never again since.
Okay, who's else got a question?
What kind of like materials?
No, no.
What kind of materials do you suggest using if you're like new?
I'll make this easy. Go to my table. I have a DVD called The Art of Inking by Tom Nguyen, and you know everything you need. Later, guys.
I think there is no difference whether you're a beginner or like a professional. If you want to ink, you need to be familiar with a brush. That's like the most important thing in my opinion. Not everyone uses one, but for me it's the basis of everything. You can use pens or crow quills like for solid lines and things like that. But the brush is important. You can do everything with a brush if you want to. Every single thing, including like technical details and things like that. So pick a good brush. The rest you can pick pretty much anything you want. Any kind of markers, pens, like whatever. Then if you like them, they'll work fine. For a brush, buy a good one and train yourself, I guess. That's just like there's no other way. I like to use like Raphael brushes. It's the ones I use are like series 8404 number 1. I've tried everything. For me, that works best. But I guess everyone has a...
Yeah, when I was getting into really trying to break into comic books, the editors would tell me if you want to break in, you need to use a brush. You need to learn use a quill, and you need to learn how to use a brush more than anything else. Because back then, that was the style. You need to use Winsor Newton Series 7, 1, 2, whatever. I use 1 and 2. But that's just something I'm used to, you know what I mean? Get very familiar with a brush because brush is really nice because it's able to be very forgiving, give some nice soft lines, nice organic lines. But also with quill, when I was doing Iron Man at the end with Bob just uses quill. That's pretty much all he uses. He won't use brush because that's just his art style. So he's like, you got to get really familiar with a quill. I'm like, well, I don't like a quill. He's like, well, that's too bad. You want to work on Iron Man, you're going to use a quill. He's like, okay. So we got back into it, and it would take a little bit of time. But, falling back into the art, the artist, you use whatever needed for that art style. But yeah, a brush is really important. Brush is really, because quill, if you can use a brush and use it well, you can get to use a quill. If you start with a quill, then it's a little harder with a brush once you start with a quill. Do you believe so? Yeah, I think starting with a brush. Don't you think so?
Probably best.
Yeah, it might be. If you're going to start with a brush, and also start with 11 by 17 paper. Get yourself used to working on that size of paper because that's primarily what comic book artists use. Use comic book paper 11 by 17. Even though that you're not quote unquote a professional, get used to using professional material, and that's exactly one of the main things that you need to do. I mean, sketchbooks and sketch stuff is cool for sketches, but if you want to get used to working in comics, you need to use 11 by 17.
Yeah, I notice out there that they sell blue line paper, 11 by 17. Personally, it doesn't work well for me. It tends to bleed. I would not suggest that. I would suggest buying real Bristol board. Once you try it, I think you'll know the difference. Speaking of materials, personally, I like to use the Winsor Newton Series 7, number 2, between 2 and 3. As far as the quill, I tried the 102, the 103, and the 109. And the difference is some flex more than others. More than anything, when you're inking, you're really the special effects guy. You're trying to vary it what a penciler did. You're trying to give texture and substance to something that's black and white.